use our precious time? I believe the answer is wisely. Did we allow others to spend our coin, or did we move forward in advancing the Academy's mission for the good of the U.S. actuarial profession and the U.S. public? In thinking about the answer to this question, I'd like to acknowledge the assistance and advice that I've had from a group of former presidents, Cecil Bykirk, Ken Holman, Tom Terry, Mary D. Miller, and Tom Wildsmith, who I conferred with several times a month to tap into the wealth of experience that they've had over the years, and also our President-elect Steve Alpert. Thanks so much to this great group. Let's have a round of applause for them. I'd also like to commend the staff of the Academy, who's committed to the U.S. actuarial profession and works tirelessly to support our members and volunteers. Most people have no idea how much good work goes on behind the scenes thanks to the professional staff of the Academy. But I would like to formally thank Mary Downs and her great staff for their enormous assistance in advancing the Academy's profession. And finally, I'd like to thank my wife, Sue, and son, Rob, for all of their support over the past year. For those of you that don't know Sue, she's the ultimate ambassador for the actuarial profession. She actually enjoys being around actuaries and their spouses, and always has great things to say about the actuarial profession. My son, Rob, is probably the greatest critic of Dad, and it's been a great help. Having them with me on some of the many business trips has made this year even more enjoyable. Let's have a round of applause for Rob and Sue. But back to the question, how did the Academy spend its coin over the past year? Let me share with you a phrase that the board reminded itself of each time that we met this year. When we lose our why, we lose our way. Let me tell you again. When we lose our why, we lose our way. What is the why for the American Academy of Actuaries? Because if we don't know why the Academy exists, we don't know our way. We don't know where we're going. The why has not changed since our inception in 1965. Our why has always involved two concepts, professionalism and public policy. And whether it be our board, our committees, our practice councils, or whatever, if we know our why, we will not lose our way. But in this ever-changing world, we may be tempted to change our why. Think about today's important issues: big data and predictive analytics, implementing principles-based reserves, reforming the reformed healthcare system, pensions plans in a continued low-interest environment but stronger economy, flood insurance modernization. But what will the topics be 5 years from now? The topics have changed and will change, but our why will continue to remain the same. Our purpose is to provide nonpartisan, unbiased, objective information to policymakers and to the public, to fulfill our profession's responsibility to the public, and to uphold the reputation of the actuarial profession. Over the past year, I've written and spoken about putting professionalism into action. In other words, making sure that our why directs our way. How do we stay on our way? Well, if you remember last year at our annual meeting, I mentioned that we must challenge ourselves to become more like thermostats than thermometers. You know, in a room, a thermometer is able to precisely inform someone of the exact temperature of the room. But if the room's too hot or too cold, the thermometer is not able to influence the environment. But a thermostat, on the other hand, is similar to a thermometer in its ability to precisely measure the temperature of the room. And the thermostat is able to influence the temperature of the room by sending a signal to the heating or cooling system if the temperature is varied from the desired level. We as actuaries have the ability to be like thermostats in our business environment. Understanding complex issues is just the first step. We can choose to influence the environment regarding these issues and thus impact the outcome of situations. We must avoid being like thermometers that understand the issues but do not influence the environment with this understanding. We must move the idea of professionalism from an abstract concept to a practical application for all actuaries. And I'm confident that we'll continue to do this. The 1,200 volunteers for the Academy are committed to professionalism and serving the public. In addition to working with many of our volunteers, the Academy has benefited greatly by working alongside the other North American actuarial organizations in a collegial manner. Do we always agree on issues? No. We wouldn't expect to, since we are different organizations with different missions. But we can agree to disagree on certain issues while still moving forward and working to advance the profession on most other issues. For example, you will be hearing later this year about a joint professionalism initiative that we're undertaking with the Canadian Institute of Actuaries. Now, particularly, I'd like to recognize the working relationship that the Academy enjoys with the Society of Actuaries and the Casualty Actuarial Society. This year, I've been quite fortunate to work closely with my friends Jerry Brown, the president of the SOA, and Nancy Braithwaite, the president of the CAS. It was good to know that they were always just a friendly phone call away, no matter what the issue was. Now, Nancy was not able to be with us. I think she's traveling in Asia, but I'd like for Jerry to stand so we can give him a round of applause. Jerry Brown. And what tools can we use to stay on our way? Over the years, the Academy has assembled a full toolkit of helpful items that support our mission. Tools to help us effectively utilize the basis for our professionalism, for the Code of Conduct, the Actuarial Standards of Practice, U.S. Qualification Standards. Tools such as the applicability guidelines for the Standards of Practice and the FAQs for the Qualification Standards. We have the tools, but to be effective thermostats, we need to work on communicating effectively with our audiences. I like to say that we need to turn our black boxes into glass boxes. Black boxes into glass boxes. We need to be totally clear and transparent in our communications. You know, as the Dalai Lama once said, a lack of transparency results in distrust and a deep sense of insecurity. Now, a corollary to that is that full transparency leads to trust and a sense of security. And isn't that what we're all about? Do our audiences, whether they're actuaries or non-actuaries, really understand what we're trying to say about our sometimes complex work and findings? And we also need to be able to communicate in a straightforward way that will allow us to sometimes have difficult conversations in a professional manner. So there we have it. I started out by saying, time's the coin of your life. It's the only coin you have, and only you can determine how it'll be spent. Be careful lest you let other people spend it for you. I believe that the Academy continues to be laser focused on setting its direction, its way, based on its unchanging mission, its why. This world has many distractions that could spend our coin for us, but I believe that with the help of our many dedicated volunteers, the leadership of the Academy will continue to spend its coin wisely. But each day, we as actuaries and the actuarial profession must challenge ourselves to be more like thermostats so that we can influence the environment in a way that will continue to earn the public trust. Thank you. And with that, I'd like to invite Steve Alpert to the stage. Steve, it's now time for the Academy's presidential transition, signified by the exchange of traditional symbols of office. The passing of the gavel. I present to you, Steve, the gavel, the symbol of leadership. The Presidential Medal. I present to you, Steve, the Presidential Medal, worn by our President at international events. It's the symbol of the Academy's role as the National Association of Actuaries in the U.S., and it's worn at various events here and around the world. Wear this medal, along with this pin, with pride, as you represent all of America's actuaries. Steve, I now welcome you as the 53rd President of the American Academy of Actuaries.
Thank you, Bob. As my first official act, I get to give to you the traditional gift to the outgoing president, the statues of the Chinese Mandarin and his scribe. The Mandarins represent the role of the actuary as a trusted advisor to the country's decision makers. By providing policymakers with nonpartisan actuarial analysis, the profession helps in the development of sound laws and regulations. I would also like to present to you, Bob, the medal for the outgoing president. Well, congratulations, and thank you, Bob, for your leadership and dedication. The Academy is fortunate to have you and other leaders who are deeply committed to our professionalism and public policy mission. Over the past year as president-elect, it has been a tremendous privilege to see and participate in the dedication and passion that you, the past presidents, leaders, volunteers, and Academy staff bring to that mission. Now, I have been honored with carrying the torch of professionalism and serving the public for the 53rd year of the continuing relay of our long-standing mission. As Sir Isaac Newton once put it, to explain all nature is too difficult a task for any one man or any one age. 'Tis much better to do a little with certainty and leave the rest for others that come after you. So this year, my personal little task is helping to increase the public's perception of the actuarial profession as a vital, necessary, and valuable part of the social fabric. But before we get there, I want to share a couple of personal anecdotes that can illustrate how we can work together in our collective tasks and advance our overall goals. So my story begins in October 1965, when 1,466 actuaries, came together as charter members of the American Academy of Actuaries. While these were all pioneers and leaders in their own way, one is of particular importance to me, Frank J. Alpert. Surely the idea of coming together as professionals and the acknowledgement of actuaries, a noble and valuable profession, was a topic of dinner table conversation, and one that a particular second grader followed with eager interest. So much so that, in fact, a mere 5 months later, that second grader had the prescience to foresee his own destiny. Recognize that actuarial work is fun, and with succinctness and brevity that we can only aspire to, bring the entire story to a close in a mere 60 words. Equally impressive, of course, are my parents, who had the presence of mind to recognize the historical importance of this document. And even though I managed to forget all about it in the ensuing 21 years, they managed to keep it, preserve it, save it, and present it to me when I had completed all my fellowship and enrolled actuary exams and had become an Academy member myself. And I have been extremely fortunate that they continue to beat the longevity odds and are both doing well and living in White Plains, New York, where I grew up. So even though they could not make the trip to DC today, I want to take a moment to thank them for their love and support and for making this moment and story possible. I also want to thank my wife, Sharon, who knows a good thing when she sees it, for her patience and support while I was studying, and for finding a suitable desktop frame for my essay. And now, after exams, I have my children to thank for setting me on a different sort of path, that of becoming a youth and high school soccer referee. I know what you're thinking. What could refereeing possibly have to do with the actuarial profession? Well, interestingly, there are some surprising parallels between running around wearing polyester in the hot sun, beautifully modeled here by FIFA referee Howard Webb. My apologies to our communications director, David Nolan. You can ask him about that later. And laboring toward that perfectly crafted spreadsheet model. Just hang out with me for a couple of minutes. Referees and actuaries, believe it or not, have a similar history and bring similar professional characteristics to performing their duties. We both evolved over similar timelines. Eliezer Wright develops and applies the first solvency rules to life insurance in 1858. And just 5 years later, an association of 11 English schools agree on the first common set of rules for what they called association football. Newspaper editors, of course, had to shorten that to ASOC football, and the public, with even fewer syllables, managed to call it soccer. Moving forward to between 1889 and 1891, we realized that growing complexity and skill amongst practitioners creates a need for organized professional judgment. David Parks Fackler founds the Actuarial Society of America, and the soccer referee, who was originally on the sidelines so that the gentlemen's schoolboys could refer to him if they had questions about the rules, while the referee gets moved to the center of the action. He's given the authority to make judgments, determine violations, assess penalties. And of course, over the past 50 years, both the soccer and actuarial communities have seen a growing body of standards and interpretations defining our responsibilities to our publics and our principles. But wait, there's even more. Actuaries and referees bring very similar skill sets to fulfilling their professional duties. There aren't very many of us, and a few people outside our small circle really understand what we do, although they rely on us to do it expertly and professionally. From the outside, it may seem that we are merely technical administrators, just following a set of rules, just calling balls and strikes, if I could mix metaphors from another sport. Now, the public may think that they understand these rules completely, but the reality is that many may only know them selectively. We know differently. Each situation is unique, and we take into account both the context and spirit of what we're trying to accomplish. In short, we are both empowered and expected to make decisions based on informed judgments, express opinions about materiality and significance, and to use our discretion to take appropriate action within the framework of the laws and rules. We serve an important function. The public relies on us to assure the safety and fairness. For a referee, that means keeping players safe and letting their skill determine the outcome within the boundaries of fair play. By providing objective, evidence-based information, actuaries help assure the public that financial security programs' promises of future payments are fairly made and can be relied upon when and if they are needed. And of course, perspective matters. You need to see things from the proper angle and the appropriate distance. Knowing where to look and what to look for requires both training and continuing experience. And by the way, in actuarial work, as in soccer, there is no magic computer-generated line that the TV network puts up there to help you make the decisions. Not only do we need the right perspective to answer the question, is the ball over the line, we need the right perspective to know which question to ask. Where are we? How did we get here? Where are we going? We both have to tailor our actions and messages to the needs of the moment. Whether it's a routine adjustment to remain pointed in the right direction, a warning that behavior may be nearing a boundary and needs to change, or a rarer but necessary hard truth that current actions or behavior are out of bounds, must cease immediately, and be significantly penalized. Depending on the context, any one of these situations could be a moment of truth, where failing to make the right call or take the appropriate action could result in irrevocable damage to our respect and reputation. Now, this moment of truth can happen quickly or without warning, so it's important that both actuaries and referees be prepared for anything to happen, because sooner or later, everything will. Finally, we come to Ken Aston, a great British referee and a pioneer in referee professionalism at about the same time that Henry Rood was pioneering actuarial professionalism and founding the American Academy of Actuaries. Aston had the insight that the red and yellow colors of traffic signals could very simply and very effectively communicate to a diverse global audience. He also coined the phrase, "refereeing is thinking," a sentiment I think that applies equally well to actuarial practice. Actuary is thinking. So as I noted at the beginning, this year I want to increase the public's perception of the value of the actuarial profession. I can't do this alone, so I'm asking for your help in fulfilling the profession's responsibility to the public and upholding the reputation of the actuarial profession by being prepared for your moments of truth, making the right call. As we go through the year, our dialogue about the public value of our profession will include many difficult questions, such as what does the public, by which I mean those individuals and people who may be relying on our work but are not necessarily the principals that are paying for it. What do they perceive our responsibilities and reputation to be? In other words, how does our professionalism deliver our brand promise to the public? And how do we relate these responsibilities to our principals? These are not easy questions to answer, but thinking them through will help make us stronger and help improve the profession. So to Academy members, volunteers, and leaders, thank you from the bottom of my heart for your efforts for joining me in this challenge. Your membership and involvement demonstrate a commitment to the entire profession and recognize the Academy's essential role in protecting and preserving the public's trust in what we do. Simply put, we could not fulfill our mission to serve the public without your hard work, dedication, and invaluable contributions. So during the coming year, you can express that support by continuing or convincing a non-member actuary to become a member, or convincing a member to volunteer for an academy, task force, or work group, or convince a volunteer to be a chair or a vice chair, or maybe even a board member. All in all, keep up the excellent work. Take pride in your chosen profession. Think, have the right perspective, make the right call, and help make it fun to carry the Academy's mission forward. Thank you.